Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Atheist Uprising. I'm your host, Joshua Void, and today is going to be a good day. But before we commence, I really want to thank everybody who's inside the comment section right now. Thank you so much for coming through and watching the content which we are putting forward. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the future dreams of what the Atheist Uprising is wanting to put forward. So, again, thank you very much for watching. Next, I want to thank our Patreon supporters. Thank you, Linear, Dion LaShay, and Calasia for really coming in and helping and supporting and helping us out through Patreon, because that really does help with providing the funds for future projects and everything, because we got a lot of projects coming down the pipeline. So this is what the show is kind of about at the moment. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. If we are looking at one second. If we are looking at what the Atheist Uprising is slowly but surely going to become, it is, at least for me, something that is extremely exciting, because it's something new. I believe it's something fresh in at least the atheist, or at least the secular humanist movement and stuff like that, underneath the atheist umbrella in and of itself, right? So, all in all, what we're really focusing on here at the today is, first off, the name change. So, the Atheist Uprising is going to switch its name to the Promethean Secular Uprising. Now, what does that mean, and why are we doing it, and what is the change for doing it? Well, we are still an atheist channel. That is the first thing. We're still an atheist channel. However, our views in certain areas are not like other secular humanist views and values and so on and so forth. So it is kind of like an off branching of hold on, second name change. That's true, right? But it's an off branching of the secular humanist movement in and of itself. And I think that it's going to be beneficial, because for us, or at least for me, what Prometheanism stands for is that fire that people want to learn, right? That fire that burns within each and every one of us to pass on to our next generation, but not just that, but also to other individuals which might not actually have these type of thought processes and stuff like that. And just like with Prometheus, towards a certain extent, what did he do? He created the fire, which was figurative, obviously, that was meant to help humanity be sentient in and of itself towards a certain extent, and also have knowledge, right? So if you really look at Promethean fire, for instance, there's two angles of it. The first angle is just the prospect of, okay, well, humans created fire, and henceforth we were able to see the world around us in a different way, right? And predominantly, the scary darkness was beaten off and beaten back by that circle of fire, which humanity learned to create in order to protect itself from outside prey. The other angle of it, which is much more interesting, is the fire of knowledge. And what that is that for learning things such as the learning of fire, or how to make fire, not the learning of fire, but how to make fire, the learning of how to dam water, for instance, or lakes or rivers and so on and so forth, in order to help with multiple different things, such as food production in certain areas, to literally power sources, such as back in the day with grain, for instance. A lot of grain mills were beside water, and because of that, it was able to rotate the actual mill in a particular, or inside the mill, which then ground the grain into more fine fine grain not particles, but fine grains in a sense. And from there, they were able to put it inside bags and then sell it to the rest of the world. But anyways, all that is just the knowledge. The fire of knowledge is the thing that kept us moving forward, right, and progressing. Even though progress isn't necessarily a directed path, right, what it did help us with is understanding our environment. And through understanding that said environment, we were able to confront new areas, right? Nouveau areas that in the beginning were harder for us to understand. Because as hunter gatherers, it's much harder to think about sedentary life. It's much harder to think about grain production and so on and so forth. And let alone, for instance, living within any type of number of people that is most probably around 40 or maybe as big as a tribe would possibly get is 60 to like 100 individuals within one tribe. But slowly but surely, through knowledge and becoming sedentary and everything like that, it helped us form larger and larger and larger communities. And from there, our numbers grew and grew and grew based on our sedentary lifestyle. Now, don't get me wrong. Yes, I know certain people would state that that is a problem and stuff because that just helped explode our population. But the reality is that just that knowledge alone has leapt us forwards in such great strides, you know, just within the sciences, within even understanding certain areas such as climate change and everything like that. So it's very interesting to really delve into why the name Promethean, or why I want to change the name of the Atheist Uprising to the Promethean Secular Uprising. Because what we want to do is pass on that knowledge, to pass on that flame to other individuals. And from there, hopefully they pass on that flame to other individuals too. And more and more and more and more and more until the number of atheists grows, right? I'm not going to think that a lot of, well, not a lot, but hopefully more people start joining into the Promethean ideology, well, not ideology, but thought process and stuff, because that would be really cool. But the whole entire point of the Promethean Secular Uprising is to help increase the number of atheists that are within the world at the moment. And I think that would be a beneficial thing in order to sit down and literally have these type of discussions and literally put the theist in a position, right? Or at least the ones that are debating in a position for them to start accepting our sort of our hand in a sense, because a lot of times what I see within debates and even conversations and everything is that the atheist is always making the concessions, and a lot of times the theist does not make any, right, in order to move the conversation forward. And I think even though that is a benefit, at the same exact the same exact time, I think that it's a detriment as well, because we're the one that are making concessions, and the theist feels like, look, see, they're making concessions to me and I'm making none to them. And now as Promethean secularists, it's like we're going to be pushing back on them and making them make concessions and everything like that. And the first initial concession is to make them understand, at least in my opinion, that faith in and of itself is not a good way of reaching any type of knowledge claim in and of itself. And if we can make that happen, and if we can build on that and everything like that, if for them to make that concession of saying, okay, not only is faith irrational, but at the same exact time, it doesn't lead to any knowledge claims. Now we got a foot to stand on. Now we're able to take more and more steps forward, except for taking step backward because we're making concessions to the theist. So I think that's the big thing that we should be focusing on and thinking about during the, or at least here on the Promethean Secular Uprising. anyways, if anybody does have any questions, please ask those questions, because I would love to have a conversation with you as well, and not just literally having a monologue. But if anything, and if you rather not, I'll just continue on and continue on until anybody has any questions whatsoever. And then after, I'll take a break, look, and answer those questions. So that's one of the things that I think would be a benefit, right? Is to have a movement that is based on not conceding, is based on moving forward the entire time. And that's why I think that certain atheists will not want to be part of the Promethean Secular Uprising, which is perfectly fine, right? Because the thing that I want is individuals who want to push forward. The thing that I want is a vanguard of Prometheans moving forward. And then afterwards, anybody who doesn't wish to be with us can then use whatever other methods they have or whatever in order to engage the theist afterwards, right? Because that's the whole entire point of a vanguard, is to move forward and to beat back whatever obstacle is in the way. And once we're able to break through that obstacle, then any other atheist can come in with whatever mindset they may have and use street epistemology or whatever the situation may be. And that's perfectly fine. But for us here on the Promethean Secular Uprising, we are going to be moving forward. We're going to be pushing on theists in a particular way that will make them concede to us and make us take those initial steps forward in order to actually solidify our ideas and to solidify our ideologies to the theist in and of themselves. And I think this is the best possible way to move forward, because that's the thing, right? As I stated, the vanguard is supposed to push forward. If a vanguard does not push forward, there's no breakthrough in any lines. And henceforth, we're at a stalemate. We're kind of just throwing sticks at each other with no resolve, right? But with a vanguard, their whole entire thing is to move through the battlefield and through the enemy in and of themselves. And I think that with the way that the Promethean Secular Uprising is going to work, in a sense, is based on that breakthrough, is based on that push, is based on that shattering the lines. And then anybody else who's behind us afterwards could come in and do street epistemology and other things like that, or you talk with theists or whatever the situation is. But at least here on this channel, we're punching through the lines as hard and as quick as possible. So that's the one thing that we really want to focus on here nowadays. What's the next thing? The other thing too is that we have a couple of projects that we have coming down the pipeline. And one of these particular projects in and of themselves is a news program and stuff like that. We really want to try to promote a news program based on atheist thought in and of itself, but not just that, but Promethean secularist thought as well, right? And mostly just based on world events, world news, everything like that, so that we can literally give you the breakdown of what's going on, but at the same exact time, not to be biased. Because I think a lot of news, or at least try not to be as biased as possible within certain circumstances or with certain events, right? But at the same time, we want to try to give you a news source which is much more, how could I say it? Which is much more transparent with the information. So we're going to be looking on both sides of the matter and literally coming with the information from both sort of investigations and giving you the scoop on that. So I think that's going to be really interesting too. And I'm really excited for this new new news channel that is going to be coming out. So I think that's going to be really cool. The other thing too is that I'm going to be having many more debates. So that's the one thing. Starting either next week or the week after next, I'm going to start delving into debates with theists and even atheists, because I do believe that sometimes, in order to build a proper foundation, sometimes you need to have debates with individuals on your own side in order to see where the mindset is. And if we're able to do that, then that is a benefit. And from there, we can look at, let's just say, issues on our side, but at the same exact time, issues on the theist side as well. So I think that's really going to be something extravagant. I think that the debate channel, that, or not channel, but the debate side of the Promethean Secular Uprising is going to be really interesting and really down in the dirt type of debates and stuff like that. So really getting that information and trying to bring the proper information, at least, to the table. It's whatever it may be, even if it's not extravagant, which is the word that I'm looking for. It could be. I don't know why, but I only have extravagant in my head right now, so it'll it'll have to stick for this moment. Uh, but all in all, that's where we're trying to head, and that's what we're trying to do. Another thing that I'm going to do for future projects is also have interviews with individuals, so atheists and religious alike, and from there really get down with how they come to their beliefs and stuff like that. But not just that, but also hearing their stories, and I think that that's going to be something really interesting to delve into the story of other atheists and stuff like that. So that's going to be a really big um, project, which is also coming too. And the last big project is something that I call Across the Line. And that's a conversation, which is not necessarily a debate, but it's more along the lines of having a fruitful conversation with a theist. So across the line would be me being here and the theist being on the opposite end, and really just having that conversation and kind of understanding where their point of view is coming from and why they believe, and where do they get this aspect of faith from that is so beneficial to them but doesn't necessarily have any type of reason behind it. And from there, we can really slowly start to have a more fruitful conversation with the theist within the show Across the Line. So those are the major projects coming up, at least. Um, and most probably it's going to be the debate projects, which is going to be the main thing that is going to come out. And then after that, it's going to be the news program, then Across the Line, and then continue on in that way. And those are going to be the first initial projects. Those are not the end projects, but those are just the initial projects that we wish to bring to you, the viewer, on the new Promethean Secular Uprising. So that's something that's really cool. There are future concepts which are being thought of at the moment, but like right now, I think that focusing on the here and now is much better. And then after later on, once we get off the ground or whatever, then we can start focusing on the larger and larger and larger projects of the future. But at least for now, like something that is most probably going to come in relatively later is a call show, because I really want to create a call show for the Promethean Secular Uprising so that atheists and let alone theists can call in and have a discussion and just see what's the circumstance, what's happening, if they have any questions for me or any type of argumentation that can beat the concepts that the Promethean Secular Uprising are coming up with, then I would love to have those type of conversations. And I think a talk show would be really good to have. in order to do that. But that's coming down way down the pipeline. That's when there's much more support for the show in and of itself. So for now, I'm excited for the support that we have, and that's why I really want to delve into debates and stuff, because that's just going to up the support. And also, too, we're going to have just conversations like the ones that we're having right now, monologues in particular, but in ways where the chat can ask questions and everything like that based on either up and coming projects, or based on ideas which they may have, or based on just uh, topic matters that we land on, such as the topic matters beforehand, which were shit, now I'm forgetting what the hell they were. One second. It was should we question everything, and faith in and of itself. And there's going to be much more shows such as those. So that's what's really going to be coming down relatively soon, Definitely those particular shows based on topic matters, which are just chosen, and let alone based on debates, which are most probably going to be coming around next week or the week after next. And then we're going to have Across the Line, which is going to be really interesting too. And then later on will be the news channel and the call show. And then we're going to have many more projects after that. So there's many concepts which are coming. It's just at this moment, we just want to be a little more, what is it called? A little more realistic with the resources which we have at this moment. And then in the future, when we are able to get more resources, then many more projects will be coming down the pipeline for the benefit of you, the viewer, and let alone for the Patreon supporters as well. So that's going to be really cool. Also, we do have a Discord and a Patreon down in the description below. So if you're interested in anything which is coming about within the Atheist Uprising, or even within our community and stuff like that, hit up the Discord and hit up the Patreon page, because that's going to be where most of the information is given. And changes will be stated there and everything like that. And let alone projects and stuff like that. The next aspect, which is really cool too, is that we're going to, if anybody comes on through our Patreon, individuals are able to choose topics, or actually that's going to be one of the things that we would really love to do, is if anybody has any ideas and stuff like that in our Patreon, they can then choose from multiple topics which are going to be out there, and they can make that decision of which topics are going to be presented on the Promethean Secular Uprising. And at least with a lot of research done within that general topic matter as well. So at least when you put that topic down, I will look definitely into that topic matter and then give a good show based on that. But all in all, those are the major changes, or the major ideas for the future, including the change of the name to the Promethean Secular Uprising. Again, if anybody has any questions whatsoever, please hit us up, hit the comment section, and I will go and check that out and answer whatever questions you may have. But all in all, it's going to be a really good year, I think, for the Promethean Secular Uprising. And I also think, too, that next year we're going to be hitting the ground running and stuff like that, in order to really build up on what we wish to present to you, the viewer, even if you are a theist or whatever the situation is, because we don't want to create, and that's the one thing that I'm not a big fan of it's creating a, what the heck is it called? why is my brain going? Shit. Creating not a sound box. The hell is it called again? Where it's just everybody agreeing with each other and stuff like that. I don't know why my brain isn't braining at the moment, but whatever the hell that's called, everybody disagreeing, but there's nobody who's actually disagreeing, because or anybody who's of different opinion. Echo chamber. There you go. Thank you, Linear. Much appreciated. Echo chamber. Yes. I don't want to create an echo chamber on here. The one thing is, like, obviously this show is for the solidification of Promethean secularist thought process, and let alone a foundation for atheism in and of itself, like I discussed many a times beforehand. But at the same time, I don't want to just have the same old, not the same old, but I mean, like, I don't want an echo chamber happening. I want people to push against me, and that's the big thing that I really want for the future. Push against me and I will be happy. Push against my ideas so I can have a bit of a, what's it called? And we can just see based on other people's ideas as well and really delve into that. And that's something that I'm really looking forward to within the Promethean Secular Uprising and stuff. And let alone, because one thing that I do truly believe is that sometimes I find that secularist movements predominantly and understandably focus on reason, logic, philosophy, science, and so on and so forth, which is really freaking fantastic. But the one thing that I don't see that often is more of the emotion aspect, right? And I think with upcoming shows, we're going to start focusing on that and focusing on a more, because I find that when people are more emotionally involved in a movement or in a group, they have much more of an affinity to want to go out there and be proactive. Where if they're not as emotional to the group and everything like that, or just to an ideology or whatever the circumstances may be, they're less active, understandably, you know? So that's the one thing, is that I really want to try to get through with the emotions of the actual Promethean Secular Uprising, so that when people come in, they're like, wow, this is something that I can stand behind. This is something that I can feel at ease with, This is something that is creating the very foundation that I don't feel like I'm confused, lost, and without purpose. Now I feel like there's a direction. There's an area that we can go to. And I think that's a lot of the circumstances where we kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Where I find a lot of atheist or secular humanist movements don't necessarily focus on is that the emotional angle. And that's why I feel that a lot of individuals that leave religions go into spirituality. And I've had many conversations about that in the past. So if you really want to hear my opinions based on spirituality and everything like that, go and check out our other videos, because it's literally the ideas that are formulated within those videos really do stand to how I feel about spirituality in and of itself. For instance, I think that spirituality isn't a win for secular humanists whatsoever. It actually brings forth more delusions, in my opinion, than actual knowledge in and of itself. Because what does the person have still with spirituality? They still have faith in something, because there's no evidence for that particular thing that they're believing in, and henceforth they're utilizing a knowledge claim that doesn't have any evidence whatsoever to believe in. So henceforth, I do not see these spiritualists as a particular ally to any type of secular humanist movement whatsoever. And I think I might be solo in that thought process, but at the same, well, not solo. Like there's certain people who do agree with me, but I don't think that it's throughout the entire, obviously, atheist community, because they think that because people leave the religions or the major religions which are there, they feel more at ease with that, because that means that now there's less people within that actual belief system. But for me, I see it opposite, right? A lot of times when individuals leave, they don't go towards the rational and logical areas. They go into other random type of spiritual belief systems, and then let alone they put that on their kids, right? They influence their kids on their faith, they influence their environment on their faith as well. And from there, there is ramifications for that said belief system, right? Because they are influencing individuals not based on a thought out epistemology, or at least an epistemology that has evidence towards it, right? Or knowledge to it. Instead, what it is that they're utilizing a new faith, or they're having faith in a new ideology that doesn't have any evidence towards it whatsoever. It's pseudo knowledge. And that's not something that we want to promote here on the Promethean Secular Uprising. So, a lot of times you will hear me when we do have spiritualists come on, you will hear me push against the spiritualist as well, because I don't think that they're any type of ally to the secular humanist movement. But all in all, that's where the Promethean Secular Uprising is heading at the moment. And I think that what's coming down the pipeline, I'm hoping that you guys are going to love, and I think you guys are going to love it, because the this is one hell of an adventure that is happening. And I think that through delving into this and through having debates, through having that sit across from theists and having less of a debate and more of a conversation and stuff like that, we will start to see the epistemology of both individuals uh, having that conversation in and of itself. And then obviously the viewer can decide which one's epistemology is stronger, so on and so forth. And I think, oh, well, it's not based on stronger, but I mean the one that has evidence to it, the one that has knowledge to it, and so on and so forth. So that's something that I think is going to be really interesting. And I think that individuals are going to have a great time listening in on those type of conversations. However, because there is one big project that is in the works, but this is probably going to take a year just to get it off the ground. But we are wanting to build a community center in order to promote secular humanism, but at the same exact time, Promethean secular thought process, and let alone just a place for individuals just to hang out and relax in the real world, rather than just having like these small areas or whatever, or at a bookstore or whatever the situation may be, where there's not really any community center for atheists in and of themselves, and agnostics also. So I think that would be really interesting, and I think that creating these community centers would be of great benefit and of great value um, to the atheist uh, or people who are atheists and agnostic. And I think that it would be really beneficial too to individuals who want to come in and listen, who might not be atheist or agnostic, but at the same exact time might want to experience what it's like to be within our community centers and stuff. And I think that might even win certain people over as well, just to see atheists or seeing secular humanists or Promethean secularists doing what they're doing, which is not all day, every day bashing religion and so on and so forth. There's also fun that happens within our set environment and within our community centers as well. So I think that's going to be something but as I stated, that's way down the pipeline. But if we're able to get to that point, I think it's really going to be of great benefit to secular humanists in general and everything like that. And then after, we will have an area which is for, for us, and let alone for anybody who wishes to come and check out like what we do, But I think that would be really cool in order to create and stuff. And from there, because another thing too is that at the moment I've started to realize that there is a inconsistency with faith and knowledge. And it's through my readings and interactions with theists, which I'm slowly but surely starting to see how powerful faith is. Well, at least within the theistic population and stuff. And the one thing is that for us in the Promethean Secular Uprising, I think the idea is to focus on that. Not to only make the show based on faith, obviously, but I mean, this is something that is the core of religious value and religious belief in and of itself. And not only just that, but also the way that the religious interacts with the surrounding environment, right? And if we're looking at these particular belief systems, the one thing that props them up is faith. And if we are able to make them question that through proper Socratic methodology, I really do believe that we will have more of an impact on the theist than any other type of philosophical outlook. Because it's true, if once you shake the very foundation of faith, because faith is extremely powerful within the theist's ideology, and if you're able to shake that to its core, I really do believe that once that's out of the way, the theist really doesn't have anything else to stand on. Like, yeah, they might have certain philosophical arguments, but at the end of the day, the reason why even those philosophical arguments stand is through their faith. And if you're able to hit that pillar and you're able to crack the edifice, let's just say, or even towards a certain extent, take down the entire pillar, the whole entire foundation of the belief system falls apart. And now rationality has a tendency to seep in to that faith. And from there, it's game over. So I think that's where a lot of the times, even with our conversations, I think the strongest arguments will need to be on faith, and let alone what faith makes individuals do and the negative aspects that can come from it, even though that there are beneficial aspects too, but there's also major negative aspects that come from faith. If faith, just like how I said in yesterday's show, if faith is too much where reason has been surmounted by faith, a lot of things could come from that and completely hinder the progress which we as atheists and as secular humanists, and now with the new movement as Promethean secularists, are trying to push forward, and henceforth we got to shake that foundation in order to bring more individuals over to the atheist side. Because again, if you're able to shake faith, There's no other aspect, there's no other deity, no other God which is out there that does not utilize faith, right? Every aspect of theology has a massive reliance on faith. And if you break that, no other theology will be able to take that place. And that's something where, and yes, some people might say that might be cruel, and some people might say that might be, um how could I say it, that might shake the person as well. But I do feel that sometimes, just like how Sean Carroll stated, when worldviews are within the same proximity with each other, a lot of times where we're not necessarily in understanding of this, there's a lot of friction. And that's why do you think the initial thing that people state is don't talk about religion, don't talk about money, and don't talk about politics and stuff like that? Why do people say that? Is because these are very touchy subjects that mostly brings out the two ideologies that individuals have, and they clash and clash and clash and clash and clash. But a lot of times, the reason why the clashing doesn't lead anywhere is because sometimes people talk past each other. So in a sense, they're not hitting each other's what's the word I'm looking for? Their points. And if you're not hitting their points, you're not going to change minds. But once you start hitting that person's points and answering those points in a consistent manner, all of a sudden, and showing why those points in and of themselves are incorrect, their worldview starts to get damaged. And likewise, with the opposite way around too, where worldviews start clashing with each other. And a lot of times too, once you start answering those questions in a particular way, which opens up the person's mind, let's just say a little more, what ends up happening is that sometimes one worldview is able to shatter another worldview. And what that means is that doesn't mean that you just leave the person there, right? Because even though the Promethean Secular Uprising is based on being the vanguard of the secular humanist movement in and of itself, the one thing that we don't want to do is, and that's why a lot of times I talk about, or I consistently talk about creating a foundation, right? Because that's the one thing. You might break through the enemy lines, but if the people feel lost once you get through, you're not actually doing anything that's of benefit. You need to create a foundation in order to create that benefit of breaking through the lines. Then when other individuals start to feel that their faith is shaky, it's like, hey, here, no need to fear that you're just going to be left out into the abyss. Here's something else that can replace that. And when we land on that, and when we give individuals that very foundation, then I think we inside the Promethean Secular Uprising have done our job properly. So we're able to break through the lines, but at the same exact time have a safety blanket towards a certain extent of the people who no longer have faith once we have broken through those lines. And they can then feel much more secure and assured of themselves on that new foundation. And from there, we could move forward and really start to change things for the better, rather than how they are now, where there's not really that much changing thus far, at least when we look at secular humanist wise and stuff like that. So I would predominantly say that doing things in that manner is the best way of moving forward. And if we're able to move forward in that particular way, we, as I said beforehand, have done our job correctly. And from there, we will be much more assured that the future generations, hopefully, will be able to continue to prop up the Promethean Secular Uprising in new ways and everything like that, and in new endeavors and new projects. Because that's the thing, right? The Promethean Secular Uprising isn't just for our generation. is for also the next generation as well. And hopefully the next generation is able to hold up that mantle and continue running with the progress that we've already made. And from there, tackle other problems which might come and which might arise in some future time, which we don't necessarily know at the moment. So that's the main thing about the Promethean Secular Uprising, is that it's not supposed to be just within our lifetimes that this movement is supposed to matter. It's supposed to be in even future lifetimes and stuff like that of our next generations and so on and so forth. So that's the big aspect of which I'm trying to build up at the moment, which is difficult, but we're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely, and through conversations and through comments within the chat and stuff like that, would definitely help mold those type of I was going to say policies, but that's not it, but those concepts which would go into, once fleshed out, into the actual foundation. And from there it will create something much more solidifying in a sense. So yeah, before I end and everything like that, if anybody has any conversations, what the hell, any comments, please hit up on the comment section and let me see what you may think or whatever, and how you may think of the new changes, or what you may think of the idea thus far, or whatever the situation may be. And if that's not the case and you guys have no questions, then all is good and everything like that. But I'll keep it going for another, I would say, 5 minutes, just in case you guys have any questions whatsoever. But yeah, so if you look down, or actually, if you like this show, hit the like and hit that subscribe button. And also, if you want to actually join our community, we got down in the description below our Discord and our Patreon. So that would be great to have you on our Discord, because that'll just grow our community more. And at the same time, I'm interacting a lot more with the Discord as well. So that's something that is a good thing. And hopefully in due time, that Discord will be thriving. And from there, we can really start to build that said community and everything like that. An online community center, if you so will say. And from there, we can then continue to grow until we hit actually in real life, like on the ground community centers for Promethean secularists and atheists and alike. So that would be really interesting. And well, that would be great to do, and let alone to create call centers and other things like that for individuals that might need help and stuff like that, but not just of any random individual that just gets a call and be like, I need help, like, no, we're not trying to do that, but at least with like professionals that want to work with us and stuff like that, we can then have them be working in tandem with us and helping out anybody who has anything based on religious trauma syndrome or whatever other issues people may have, And I think that would be good too, just somebody to talk to, somebody to sit down with, and you can relate or relay whatever issue or any sort of circumstance, with somebody who's professional, somebody who actually knows what they're doing, rather than just some random ass person who's just listening to what you're saying and giving you wrong advice or whatever the situation may be. But all in all, I really do think that the future of the Promethean Secular Uprising is going to be perfect. And I think that slowly but surely, more and more individuals are going to start joining and seeing what we have in store. And from there, real change will start to happen. Real life in world change for the benefit of everybody's well-being towards a certain extent. Like obviously there will be certain people who will not wish to join and everything like that, which is fine. But all in all, the whole entire point of the Promethean Secular Uprising, yes, is to have people sort of leave their belief systems and come to a more secularist rational way of looking at things, but at the same time is to create something and create well-being for individuals as well, and also create in real life changes to our actual environment in and of itself, and to the way that we kind of engage with that environment. So it's going to be really interesting to see the future, or what the future has in store. And I think everybody at the moment who's on here is going to see that change, and they're going to see the vision which is there. And I think that's something that's going to be really interesting. But anyways, besides that, I just really want to say thank you everybody who showed up. I really do appreciate it. And also, the other thing that I would like to say is I done forgot. Hold up. The other thing that I want to say is thank you, everybody who was in the comments section and engaging and stuff like that. That is exactly, predominantly, if not only linear at the moment, but that's perfectly fine. The more people that start coming in, the more engagement we're going to start to get. So that's good. But again, thank you, Linear, for engaging. Thank you, anybody else who's watching the show or who was watching the show. Thank you for being in the comments or just interacting by watching or listening. That is also a sense of support, and I really do appreciate that. Another thing is I want to thank our Patreon supporters, Linear, Dion LaShay, and Calasia, for really helping and promoting and just supporting the the Promethean Secular Uprising. I really appreciate it, and thank you so much, because as I stated, the projects coming down the pipeline are going to have major effect, I think. And next week we're going to really delve into some really good conversations and stuff like that. I'm going to have Atheist coming through, and we're going to talk about faith in and of itself. So this is going to be the first across the line conversation, and then from there we're going to have a topic matter which I truly enjoy talking about, and that's particularly gods that came before God and everything like that, before the Abrahamic gods. And from that very essence, how did those gods end up dying, in a sense, from people losing faith within those gods and propping up the monotheistic gods in and of themselves? And the real question is, should the theist be quote unquote nervous that their god may be the next one to end up in the graveyard of other gods which came before them? So that's going to be one hell of a conversation. I hope you guys are there to see it. But until then, keep the uprising alive, and thank you again so much for your support and so much for watching our content. Until next time, I'm your host, Joshua Void, and I'm out.